Thanks again for tuning back into the channel. In this week's video we're going to be looking at the Huion Kamvas Pro 13 2.5K pen display. Now, a disclaimer before we even start. Huion sent this through to me to ask for a review and give my thoughts on this pen display, and they don't know what I'm going to say about it, and they haven't seen this video before it goes out, so this is the first time they'll even see it. As a photographer and digital artist, I've been using tablets for many years, and even the one that I have now, which is this one here, Wacom Intuos PTK 640, which I think came out around 2011. I could be wrong with that, and I've been using that ever since, and it's worked great. I've had no problems with it at all. Still used it up until recently. Pen displays, however, I have very limited experience with. I tried one back in about 2016, 2017, but there was a lag on the screen which I found rather off-putting, so I didn't continue with that, and I moved that one on relatively quickly. This one, however, at 2.5K has really changed my mind. Standout feature of this pen display is the 2.5K highly responsive screen. Price wise, it's in the same price bracket range as its competitors. It also comes with an aluminium stand, which works great, had no problems with it at all, does not feel flimsy in any way. Battery free pen has 8,192 levels of pressure, which provides a natural and precise drawing or editing experience. It also supports tilting sensitivity, allowing for more dynamic brush strokes and shading effects depending on your own style. The parallax is minimal, if not zero, thanks to the fully laminated screen, which reduces the gap between the pen tip and the display surface, resulting in a lag-free drawing experience. And if you've used other tablets in the past, you'll know that the lag can be very off-putting. The pen display comes with a host of accessories to get you up and running from the start, and includes various cable connections depending on how your system is configured. For me, I use a 2-screen BenQ monitor setup, so I've purchased an HDMI splitter switcher so that I can keep all connected and running at once. But if your system allows, there is a USB Type-C to USB Type-C connector, meaning you have minimal cables. So that's how the pen display performs, but what software can it actually work with? As you can imagine, the pen display is compatible with different drawing and editing software, and my main ones are Photoshop, Lightroom, Capture One, Camera Raw, and another one I'll mention at the end of the video. I had no issues using it with any of these softwares, and editing my photographic images felt surprisingly natural using the pen display. Setting up the display is a very simple process, and it will match any monitor size. The pen display itself is easily configurable, and it gives you plenty of options. For example, the express keys can be programmed by yourself to suit however your workflow is, or indeed they can be left as the default. I found that I left them mainly as the default, and I only programmed one of the keys. The working area as well can be configured to your monitor size, and in this case, as it suggests, a common pen holding posture, and you simply click on accurately as you can, the red dots in the middle of each of the 9 crosshairs that appear in the screen. The pen itself can be changed to however you want it to work. I only changed the second button here, and I made that my colour picker because of my working scenario with this. And also you can set the pressure to however you want it to be, and then go in to the pressure test screen and test the pressure. Display settings as well can be changed, and you can see here I turned up the brightness here. It's the default is 50, and also the colour temperature I left at what it was, contrast and saturation I left where it was, and the colour space you have native, sRGB or Adobe RGB, just depending on whatever one you want to use. And finally, the look of the display can be changed however you want it. We all have a method that we use and that we prefer. I like to integrate elements from CG Hacks, for instance, which is a great site. You must check that out. I like to introduce elements for that, but when it comes to the actual digital art side of things, I'll combine these elements. One of my methods that I do use, so that it actually nearly looks like the person, is I'll actually trace the image itself, or I'll trace around the figure, and you'll see that and you'll see how I perform this next. My main workflow for creating these images is basically I'll put an image on the screen and I will trace around the area because I want it to look like whoever or whatever I am drawing. From here I'll then go in and I'll use a reference image for all the brush strokes and the colours and the tones. And for some of the images I've added here overlays from cghacks.com just to finalise what I want to see within the image. I've never been a big fan of the smooth brush work, or for me anyway. I use a palette knife brush to do this, but I discovered while using the tablet that if I added noise to my images, it gave me the results that I was after, something that I'd never known or seen in a video, or perhaps I've just missed it. Normally I'd edit all my images on my Wacom tablet, but now the pen display has provided me with an immersive experience, and that's including for editing the photographic images. Going forward, I will be using the pen display from now on because of this immersive experience. I had more control with my masks in both Lightroom and Photoshop. It's definitely worth trying if you haven't tried a pen display before. The 13.3-inch screen has to be the standout feature of this pen display, with a resolution of 2.5K, which equals 2560 by 1440 pixels. Your images are sharp and vibrant even when zoomed in. I did find that some of my images I was working right zoomed in at 800%. The screen supports excellent colour accuracy at 120% sRGB. It has a wide viewing angle, and the anti-glare surface reduces reflections, which does create an immersive drawing experience at every angle. I also mentioned the software at the beginning of the video, which is, it doesn't mention that it's compatible with it, but it actually is, and it works really, really well. While using the tablet, I went and looked at other painting software, and I came across REBELLE Demo, which I've got to admit I'm going to purchase now after trying it, because it has so many features and the brushes are just phenomenal. I normally paint in Photoshop, as you saw, but this just made everything so much neater and nicer. One of the main features of it that I really liked was creating the colour palette, where you could go to whatever image you wanted to create the colour palette from, click open, and it created the colour palette, which means now that I don't have to get in and select my individual colours as I am painting. Granted, it only creates 36, but once these are all mixed together, that's the colour palette of the image, it'll work perfectly for me. So I'll be purchasing this very, very soon. Using the software on the tablet, it doesn't mention that the tablet can use it, but I found that when you go into program it, you can go in and choose what type of, within REBELLE itself, you can go in and choose what type of tablet you're using. Huion does not come up in the menu, but I did find that if I took the Windows tablet, it worked fine. A whole host of surfaces and drawing and painting tools there for you, and one of the ones with watercolour, you can set the amount of bleed and the mix, and it's just lovely. It was really, really fun to use. As I say, by the time I was making this video, I haven't purchased it, but I will be purchasing this very, very soon. Hopefully you get something from that, and hopefully it kind of whets your appetite for perhaps a pen display when it comes to editing. We all have our own preferences, and I've spent years working with just a tablet, and it's great. I have no problems with it whatsoever. Now that I've tasted the pen display, I'm converted. I'm totally and utterly converted, especially for my digital art. But when it comes to, as I mentioned, when it comes to editing in Lightroom or Photoshop, when I'm editing the images in Camera Raw, the feeling of being immersed in your image, I really liked that because I found that I had more control over my masks and the finer details. But that's just how I prefer to work. You'll have your own ways. As if you couldn't tell, I actually really liked this display. 13.3 inch screen, 2.5K, even zoomed right in. A lot of the times I worked, I think once at 800 zoom, but most of the time I sat around 200 to 300 zoom when I was doing the digital painting. And it works great. It works really, really well, and it's a high quality result that you are looking at. Sits great on the desk, doesn't take up any space, easily portable. No complaints there. Sits in at a really, really decent price bracket. And I'll put a link to the Huion site below so that you can look at that, their tablets and their other pen displays. It's really whetted my appetite for displays. I now want to look at larger displays though. And that's nothing against this tablet. It's just because that was such a nice experience and I want to see it bigger. So that's it. That's it from my point of view. Thanks again for watching. Take care and I'll see you in the next video.